Here's the myth about loss aversion that even smart people still believe. Loss aversion refers to the tendency to feel the pain of losing something roughly twice as intensely as the pleasure of gaining something equivalent. Whether you're new to psychology or you've been reading about this for years, understanding this one piece can quietly reshape how you see yourself and other people. Here's the core idea worth understanding. Loss aversion explains a huge range of seemingly irrational behavior, from stock market decisions to why bad breakups are so hard to walk away from. Once that clicks, a lot of the related ideas in psychology start to make a lot more sense. Let's talk about the actual research behind this, because the evidence is often more specific than people assume. Research by psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky found losses are typically felt about twice as strongly as equivalent gains. That's not just a talking point, that's the actual finding behind why this pattern gets discussed so much. Here's where most people get this wrong. Many assume gains and losses of the same size feel roughly equally significant. It's an easy trap to fall into, because it sounds reasonable on the surface, even though the research tells a more complicated story. Here's what's actually happening. Losing $100 actually feels considerably worse than gaining $100 feels good, an asymmetry that shapes far more decisions than people realize. It sounds almost too simple to be true, but that's usually exactly why it surprises people the first time they learn it. Here's a real example of this in action. Investors often hold onto losing stocks far longer than winning ones, simply to avoid locking in the emotional pain of an official loss. That's the pattern worth noticing, and it's a pattern that keeps showing up across different studies and real-world situations. One more thing worth clearing up. Many assume gains and losses of the same size feel roughly equally significant. But losing $100 actually feels considerably worse than gaining $100 feels good, an asymmetry that shapes far more decisions than people realize. Once that misconception is out of the way, the rest of this topic gets a lot easier to actually apply. One more thing worth knowing. Researchers increasingly use large datasets and even machine learning to reanalyze classic psychology studies, checking whether older findings actually hold up at scale. Used well, that kind of tool helps separate genuinely solid research from ideas that just sounded convincing at the time. Now, a quick caveat worth adding. None of this is fully settled science. Loss aversion isn't a single fixed fact. It's more like an evolving area of understanding that keeps getting refined as researchers run new studies and replicate old ones. It's also worth saying this applies whether you're brand new to psychology or you've been reading about it for years already. The specific studies and numbers keep getting refined, but the underlying pattern, the one thing that actually makes this useful in real life, tends to stay fairly consistent across most of the research. A question that usually comes up at this point is whether this applies to basically everyone or just some people. The honest answer is that loss aversion explains a huge range of seemingly irrational behavior, from stock market decisions to why bad breakups are so hard to walk away from, and the effect size varies from person to person. But the basic pattern we just walked through tends to show up pretty broadly. So if you're taking one thing away from this, loss aversion isn't about memorizing a single study, it's about building the right mental model. Understand what's really going on, avoid the misconception we just talked about, and let that one core idea reshape how you think about yourself and the people around you, 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 people around you,